Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have a 2023 favorite pickup video. And actually, I was going to maybe make this like a top 10, say my favorite pickups of 2023, but as I was going through them, I couldn't pick, of course, 10. So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to show as many as I can. Things that I discovered and explored and purchased and were gifted to me in 2023. But first, there was a package that I started to unbox, but they were a lot of small little decants and stuff, and it took a while to unwrap them and all that stuff. So I started the video over, and I just want to say thank you to my perfume god person who sent these. The person would like to remain anonymous, okay? So no shout out here, but I'll show you some of the stuff that came in. First of all, this is Le Trois, a 5 ml mini of Le Trois from 87, I believe. Parfums Jean-Claude Gitois. I've never heard of this, but apparently it's an animalic, leathery women's fragrance from the 80s, which sounds right up my street. So you can live right here for now. And then there was this bottle of Worth, which I could not place at all. Look how old this is. This is like, look at that. I could not place this. Atomizer Gerevians, pour le sac atomizer Gerevians. No clue. No clue what this is. I couldn't find it. It just says Worth Paris. I don't know which Worth it is. So if anyone knows, do let me know. And then there was this Nassau Melody, which specially blended and bottled in Paris for sale in Nassau, Bahamas. This is the extract. Look, the bottle looks like a old Arpège Lanvin bottle. Very interesting. And then there was a bottle of Bergamasque by Orto Parisi, which I do not have in the collection, so thank you very much, my friend. And there was a mini of Billet Doux by Fragonard. I think that's how you pronounce it, Billet Doux. And there was a mini of De Rothschild by Francis Rothschild Inc. No clue about that one. And there was this little cool thing. Look at this. Delta Perfumes Inc. Look at this packaging, okay? Okay, Delta Perfumes Inc. Look at the bottle. This is called Midnight Hour by Delta Perfumes. It's in this little atomizer, so it didn't leak. But the bottle is for reference. How cool is that? For vintage lovers. And there were a couple others. There was Adolfo and the Baron Cologne for Men. So very excited to get to know these. Try them. And all that fun stuff. So thank you to my perfume benefactor who would like to remain anonymous. And there was a little ram on the box as well. I didn't get to show you guys, but there was a ram. Okay, scent of the day. So today, I'm wearing a fragrance I picked up in 2023. That's what brought this video on. And it is Mitsuko. Now, this is the vintage Pure Parfum. You can see right there. If you look on the side, it gives the ingredients. It says contains alcohol and fragrance. That's how I like my ingredients list. And this is one of the most beautiful, I mean, oh God, just heartbreakingly beautiful fragrances and packaging. Look at this 8 ml Pure Parfum from the 80s from Guerlain. I mean, it's perfect. I don't know how you improve on that. And this is I'm going to try to review this one day. I don't know how in the world I'll ever be able to. I also picked up a couple other Mitsukos this year in 2023. One was the Rosebud bottle. This is a copyright 60s. If you look on the bottom of the bottle I'm wearing today, it says copyright 83. I think this says copyright 63 or 66 or something. But I think this might be a 70s bottle. I'm not really 100% sure. The Rosebud extract bottles are just brilliant. And then the late 70s heart-shaped Parfum de Toilette. This might be my favorite version of Mitsuko. I mean, I don't know how I'm going to review this. I don't know how I'll have the words to say what needs to be said about Mitsuko, but one day I will try. I mean, the way that the peach just blends with the mossy notes, there's almost something slightly oriental in wear style about the Pure Parfum. I mean, there's bits and pieces, just little bits and pieces of like Chypre Palatin, but God, it's so unbelievably beautiful with that Guerlainade. It's one of the best fragrances of all time. Love wearing it. Okay, so we're just going to go through. We're just going to go through random pickups from 2023. We'll see how far I can get before my camera shuts off. So first of all, this was the year where, you know, if you know me, you know that I'm very fond of saying things like, the Ram goes everywhere. I go vintage, I go niche, I go designer, I go cheap, I go expensive. But one part of the perfume world I did not really go is Atars. And so this was the year of the Atars. Thanks to my good friend Sultan Pasha, I got to discover things like Fagia, which I reviewed, Shirin Chai, which I reviewed, Ensar Rose, which I reviewed, and Al Harim, which I reviewed. And I really enjoyed getting to know these. So thank you, Sultan Pasha. There's also an entire discovery set, which one day maybe I'll try to dive into. But the Mozart of Atars, as far as I'm concerned, is Sultan Pasha. And then I picked up, this is going to be completely out of order, by the way. It's impossible to put these in order, and we're going to go fast. So this is Replay. Replay, as far as I'm concerned, is an amazing fresh fragrance, discontinued from the 90s. Very hard to find, but if you're into fresh fragrances, this is actually a really well done take on a fresh fragrance. Apparently, Replay was like I want to say that they were a jeans company from my research. Replay was a fashion brand, a jeans company. This came out in 1996, and the lavender in this, oh, it's one of the best. Just spicy lavender with other spices and a little bit of patchouli and vetiver and stuff like that. Brilliant, fresh style fragrance for men from the 90s. And then we've got this little bad boy. This is Chanel's Petit Vanille, which is probably one of my least favorite Chanel's I've ever smelled. Not that it's a bad fragrance. It's sort of very floral heavy. I think this would smell amazing on a woman that just wants to smell modern and fresh. And, you know, maybe there's a little hint of an oriental base. But, I mean, Chanel doesn't make bad fragrances. It's just that this is not my favorite style. And then, this was a gift from my good friend A2. If you've gifted stuff to me and I forget who gave me what, I do apologize. I'll try to remember. But this one I know came from my good friend A2. This is Ladano Netto, which I actually have a review on the channel if you'd like to check this out. This is the only Tiziana Terenzi in my collection. And I actually like this one as far as a fragrance for someone that really wants to get to know labdanum. Like, that's a brilliant labdanum fragrance. All right, this is from Enchante Perfumes, as were the Chanel and Replay. This is called Blue Marine de Cardin. And I can tell you that this is a Raymond Chaillan creation and Martin Gras. And what a fragrance this is. I mean, I can tell you exactly what it's not. It is not a blue fragrance. This is before the sort of blue phase kicked in. This came out in 1986. I think Anouge might still have some bottles, but it's things like basil, clary sage, mugwort, cinnamon, cedar, clove, spruce. There's a brilliant spruce note in here, and it's a mossy, sort of resinous base with ambergris, labdanum, leather, benzoin, frankincense, and moss. Very old school, slightly fougere-ish. If there is an aquatic, it's the ever tiniest bit in the background. Maybe like one of the earliest uses of aquatic type materials. But if it's there, it's in the whole background, because most of this is a classic vintage 80s masculine scent to me. I don't really get an aquatic feel. But yeah, the blue name I think sometimes throws some people off, but I absolutely love this. I think it's a fantastic under the radar vintage. And then a women's fragrance, which is the very first fragrance from the house of Alain Delon. This is called, what are you called? This is called Le Temps Damer. Le Temps Damer. And I will review this one of these days on the channel, but this is like an animalic floral fragrance from my testing, and I do love floral. If I'm gonna wear a floral fragrance, I like them to be animalic. So that's a very interesting one. And then another one from A2. This is Miel de Bois, which I actually reviewed on the channel. One of the best honey fragrances in my collection. Miel de Bois, oh my God. You know, the Rich Mitch has the line of the century with this one. It's like bees feasting on a field of iris and bringing the iris pollen back to the hive and creating honey off of the iris flowers. Oh, it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Or violet flowers, or because obviously iris is created by the root of the flower and has to sit for 2 or 3 years, so bees couldn't make proper iris, but it smells like that. That's kind of the vibe that it gives off. It's so beautiful. Go check out my full review on Miel de Bois. I love the House of Serge Luton. And then, this is a vintage cologne version of Dunhill for Men, and I plan on maybe even doing a comparison video one day with the Eau de Toilette that I had for a long time. But this is from Cullen. He got this from Japan for me, so thank you, Cullen. I absolutely love this fragrance in this version. The newer one is scratchy and hard to appreciate, and you know, it's one of the things about newer perfume when you smell something like this that's been around since 1934, right? You know it's been through reformulations. I think this one went through a big reformulation in the early 2000s. I think Michelle Almerac actually reformulated the newest version that we're smelling, but I think even that's now discontinued. But these vintage bottles from the 70s, 80s, they are gold. They are such a great fragrance. A little bit of leather in the base, but Dunhill for Men from 1934, I believe. 1934. Yes, Dunhill for Men from 34. Brilliant fragrance. There's a beautiful carnation note as well. Some lavender in the top. Very traditionally masculine, but the vintage is out of this world. Out of this world good. You can smell the quality in the older bottles. One of my favorite Dunhills. Okay, here's a women's fragrance that gets almost no love. But I'm going to change that because I'm going to try to review this on the channel one of these days. This is the Eau de Toilette. I think this is the Eau de Toilette. Yes, this is the Eau de Toilette version of Leonard's Balahé. Balahé is a fragrance that came out in '83. It came out a couple years before Dior's Poison. There is definitely shades of Dior's Poison in here. It's got that plum, it's got the aldehydes, it's got tuberose, but this has other things in there as well. It's got some anise, which I think makes this maybe even a little bit more masculine than Poison. There's a pineapple note in here. There's coriander, there's orange blossom, iris, jasmine, orris, ylang ylang, orchid, rose, vanilla, apopanax. So it also has a resinous base thing, kind of like Poison. Vetiver civet, so it's animalic with musk and sandalwood. This feels like the precursor to Poison. Poison gets all the accolades. This deserves more love. Danielle Molière is the perfumer. Okay, now we're going to go from one great perfumer to another. This is from the House of Bourgeois, and this is called Soir de Paris, which I think basically means an evening in Paris, if I'm not mistaken. This is the Eau de Cologne version. This came out in 1928, and the perfumer is actually Ernst Beau. So if you like your old Chanels, this is definitely one to check out. I think the Eau de Toilette and the Pure Perfume get more love, but the Eau de Cologne is just what I was able to find. It's such a hard fragrance to find because it's been discontinued for so long. It's like a floral, resinous type fragrance. It's supposed to have, it definitely opens up with that aldehydic feel from Ernst Beau that you know, but this turns powdery, very floral, slightly resinous. There's supposedly real ambergris in here, and it's sort of musky in the base as well, but it's a beautiful floral perfume. Fantastic. A little bit of tarragon in the top as well. Tarragon, cyclamen, carnation, clover, iris, lilac, jasmine, lily of the valley, linden blossom, rose, ton of flowers. And even though in violet, even though there's no aldehydes listed, I definitely get that Ernst Beau like signature DNA. Okay, this is a vintage zoologist bottle. You can tell by the cap not having the zoologist symbol on the top or the sticker on the bottom. But I believe this came from Hari or maybe Mudasir, I can't remember, or Armando, but this is Camel. And Camel, I love Camel. I love the actual photo of the camel just looking off into the distance, looking to a brighter future. But Camel is probably one of the better Zoologist. It is fruits and an incense with myrrh. This made my myrrh list, even though it didn't get shown because the video cut off on me. The dried fruits, incense, myrrh, a little bit of civet and oud in the base. Probably one of the better Zoologists, in my opinion. I would love a bottle of Sacred Scarab one day, but I'm going to review that on the channel one day soon, too, as a thank you for Sultan Pasha coming on the channel. And then, this is actually a very tough fragrance to find. This is the Eau de Cologne version. There's also an Eau de Toilette. But I was able to get the Eau de Cologne, so that's what I got. This is Mark Cross for men. And this is, listen to the cap coming off of this. You guys remember that sound, right? Actual metal, not plastic. This is a banger fragrance. It's woody, tobacco-y, ambery. When I wore this to work, the guy that sits next to me said that he smelled a lot of flowers, and I was like, flowers? But he says he got a lot of flowers out of it. I get a lot of the tobacco and the woods and the ambers, but just a beautiful, spicy, woody, I mean, just straight up and down masculine, no nonsense. Love Mark Cross for men. Okay, that's from 78, by the way. Okay, next on the list is a women's fragrance, and this is a hard find, but if you're like me and you're willing to wear women's fragrances, a la stuff like Mitsuko, I would definitely give this a try. Oh God, Mitsuko is just so beautiful. I wish I had the word. I don't know if I'm going to have the words to describe it, but I will try. It is so unbelievably beautiful in the Pure Parfum. Fuck me. This is Van Cleef & Arpels Gem, by the way. This is the Eau de Toilette, the vintage Eau de Toilette. Cullen found me this. You can see from the Japanese writing on the back. And this stuff is amazing. Even though it's marketed towards women, Gem by Van Cleef & Arpels has, I would have no problem wearing it. It came out in 87. It's a spicy floral. It has that plum floral thing that you get in Rochas Femme. But this uses some other notes like myrtle. There's peach and rosewood in here. There's cardamom and coriander and clove and jasmine, tuberose, rose, ylang ylang, carnation, iris, oak moss, vetiver, amber, civet, patchouli, and vanilla. And I mean, I love what they used to do with the bottles back in the day. Like, could you imagine just walking around with a ring like this on? Just an amazing, amazing fragrance. And then we've got some discontinued Givenchy's, from my understanding. This is the original Monsieur de Givenchy, and this is Monsieur de Givenchy Haute Concentration, which I absolutely prefer this one. This is still good. This is probably what they originally intended. This is what men wore before proper men wore perfume. You know, you wore something that was light and barely anyone could smell you, because men were cautious about wearing perfume anyways. First of all, they didn't wear perfume. They wore cologne. Just having Eau de Toilette on the front probably put most men off back then. But this is sort of in that Chanel Pour Monsieur style, you know, that very citrusy, light style. But the super concentré, as they call it, this is much more my speed for this style of fragrance. Oh, I'm going to review these one of these days. Fantastic fragrance. Okay, next on the list is another women's fragrance. This is called Folies Bergier. I think it's pronounced Bergier. Please, Frenchmen who are bleeding from the ears, forgive me. But this is an Eau de Parfum, 30 ml. This came from Anouge. And this is an amazing vintage. I wonder if they ever loaded it in Parfumo. Folies Bergier. Yes, it is loaded. This is the Eau de Parfum. Aldehydes, apricot, freesia, water lily, jasmine, lilac, peony, tuberose, amber, cedar, musk, sandalwood, and vetiver. A beautiful, beautiful floral fragrance for women. Absolutely deserves some limelight, in my opinion. And one of these days, once I get around to it, I will talk about it. So yes, that is from this year. Another one from this year, and another one from Japan from my friend Cullen. Gucci Rush, and this is one that Gucci Rush for men, excuse me. This is one I actually reviewed on the channel, so you can check it out if you want to learn more about it. One of the Tom Ford creations while he was at Gucci. And obviously, does this not remind you of those big fat white iPods that used to have the circle on the front? Okay, next on the list is my favorite Burberry fragrance of all time. This is Burberry's for men. Burberry's for Men is how this one is pronounced. This is the 1992 version distributed by Royal Brands, but there is a 1981 version as well. I think they're both amazing. There is a little bit of mint in here. It's aromatic, but it's also very leathery and very 80s, very dry, leathery. And some part of me, because this came out in 81, makes me wonder if that mint leather thing that Guerlain Darby did took a little bit from this. This is such a great, such an underrated. Speaking of underrated fragrances, like Blue Marine, this is so underrated. Burberry's for Men from 1981. Okay, I've already had other bottles of this fragrance, but this came from Japan because this particular version is very hard to find. It's one of the versions that came out in the first year or two. I think after the first year or two, they did away with doing it this way, but this is called L'Egoiste. And so L'Egoiste is when one of the earliest versions of Chanel's Egoiste came out. They then dropped the L and made it Egoiste. Actually, originally, this fragrance was known as Bois Noir. I would love a bottle of Bois Noir, but they go for crazy money. But this is spicy, woody. This is Chanel all the way. One of my favorite sandalwood scents of all time, but it's also so much more. Especially in the vintage version, you really get this thicker, richer scent profile. The modern Egoiste is still very good, but it lasts like 5 or 6 hours. This stuff lasts all day. And you get, I love the rosewood mahogany combination. I love the carnation in here. And of course, I love the sandalwood, tobacco, vanilla, amber, and a bit of leather. Just a brilliant, brilliant fragrance. L'Egoiste from Japan. Thank you, Cullen. And then, I believe this came from Hari, or Armando. I can never remember. But this is Ensar's E01. This is the year where I finally kind of broke down on Ensar and really got into, oh, it's so, so good. My favorite Ensar, okay? Actually, Tiger Lust might have something to say about that, but I don't have a full bottle of Tiger Lust. But as far as full bottle goes, E01, the OG is my favorite. I do have a review of this. I also have a review of a flanker, Assam Oud, on the channel if you want to check that out. So a couple of the newest creations come from, or newest, I shouldn't say, but new to my collection come from my good friend Anuj, and he recently sent me this, Monsieur Coutier and 12 by the House of Jean Coutier. This came out in the late 70s. This came out in the early 80s, 1981, and my God, I wore this as my scent of the day the other day. 12 is such an amazing fragrance. Like if you love fougères, if you want to smell a fougère that smells like a dirty, because 81 was all about dirtiness, right? And Teus and Koros and stuff like that, right? Imagine Paco Rabanne done in like a dirty 81 version. Challenging and animalic and, oh, it's so good. But it has that Paco Rabanne fougère freshness. Oh, it's beautiful. I can't believe I never smelled this until now. So thank you, Anuj. And this is on another world. This is like a suede leather. Like, I only wore it to bed once, but my God, I was blown away. I literally sprayed this on my hand. This is the aftershave, and you can see how old it is. There's like stuff floating in it. But this is the aftershave, right? And from 78, I think this was. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Monsieur Couturier is maybe how it's supposed to be pronounced. I'm probably butchering it. Couturier. But yeah, leather, this is 76. Raymond Chaillan. Again, Raymond Chaillan, the classic spices, leather, tobacco, and woody notes. A very similar note breakdown to this. But I think you get more tobacco and woods out of this, and I think you get more suede leather out of this. It is unbelievable. And in an aftershave, and this is an aftershave with an atomizer, which I think is cool as hell, by the way. But in an aftershave, I could smell this on my hand the next day. I sprayed it before bed, could smell it when I woke up. Crazy what aftershaves used to be back in the day. Okay. This is a Bertrand Duchaufour creation. This is called Eau de Sorel from the house of Naomi Goodsir. My only full bottle of Naomi Goodsir in my collection. This is a vintage bottle in the older packaging, but what a fragrance this is. This is like Bertrand Duchaufour does Tobacco Vanille. So if you're tired of that Tobacco Vanille clone thing going on, but you love the DNA and you want something different and unique, this is amazing. Bertrand Duchaufour doesn't make boring fragrances. To me, there's always an interesting twist here. This stuff is fire. Okay, next on the list is a vintage Roja. Yes, vintage Roja. We're going there. This is a vintage version of Sultanate of Oman, one of my favorite Rojas from the Middle Eastern line. You'll smell the DNA of some of the others in that line, but this is one of the best ones to me because, well, first of all, I love incense, but just the way it's all blended, it's brilliant. And I'll do a comparison video between the new bottle of that I have and the vintage one. And then a couple Tom Fords. One is Amber Absolute, which I have had a chance to wear, and I will tell you that Amber Absolute can definitely compete with Ambre Sultan for the top spot. Maybe the only other amber, you could put Russian Oud up there, I think, because Russian Oud wears like an amber, even though it's an Oud. But, you know, those three, man, just fantastic ambers. And then we've got Plum Japonais, which I'm not as impressed with. I like it. I don't love it, though. I don't understand the huge hype about it. You know, maybe if you're a die-hard plum lover, but Plum Japonais is this weird, like, plum liqueur with Japanese camellia, saffron, oud, vanilla absolute, Sawara cypress, Laotian cinnamon. A good fragrance, but definitely not worth the crazy money the scalpers are trying to get because it's discontinued. And then we have Spirit of the Glen by DS and Durga. I have reviewed this. This is one of my favorite boozy fragrances of all time. Forget my favorite Scotch whiskey fragrances, which almost none of them exist. But they actually worked with Glenlivet to create this fragrance. I think this is the best DS and Durga. Now, I haven't smelled them all. I haven't smelled a lot of them, actually. I do have a DS and Durga live stream where I tested some. I would like to test more. I'd like to smell that 40 million year old amber that goes for $700. And I'd also like to smell Bowmakers and a bunch of other DS and Durga I've never smelled. But that is a gem. Like, if you're a fan of boozy fragrances, that is on another level. And then Peter from Centauri Perfumes, Peter from Fragrance View, sent me this, and I've reviewed it. This is called Centauri's Elixir. This is also a boozy fragrance, but it has a little bit of a sort of, there's a little bit of this syrupy smell in here as well. And you know, there's something in here that reminds me of this vape juice liquid that I used to, when I used to vape like 8 years ago. It's interesting. It's a huge fragrance. But if you like boozy fragrances and if you like the syrupiness of Bond Number 9 and you want it to be beast mode, because Peter's fragrances are all extra, this is an elixir, check this one out. And the first time I've ever held one of these bottles in my hand, and this bottle is almost a work of art in itself. The cap is one of the coolest caps I think of all time. I love the bottle and everything that he created. So thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. Okay, and then maybe one of the letdowns of 2023 was Feel Oud. They released, now to be fair, the samples I have not talked about yet on the channel, which some of these I actually maybe even like a little bit better than the one I bought a full bottle of. I got a full bottle of Oud Balsam here, which I did not love, and I did a video on it, and I was not too nice to it. But it is a good fragrance. It's not that it's a bad fragrance. I just expected more from the collab between Dmitry Bortnikov and Russian Atom for the first time. But I've been testing Sunrise and Set and Oud de Grande, which is, Oud de Grande is, you know, if you can stand a large jasmine, that's a really good fragrance. So I'll talk about those two that I haven't talked about on the channel. But that was a 2023. That was this year. And then a couple other Arige Ladores that were picked up this year. This is Musk Lave. Beautiful, beautiful presentation. And I've reviewed all of these Arige Ladores. So if you're interested, you can go to my Arige Ladore playlist. You can watch them all. And this one is called Agar de Noir, which is a beautiful violety sort of coffee fragrance, if I remember correctly. Yeah, violety coffee. And then this one is Siberian Summer, for a fragrance that doesn't use real musk. This is like a musk accord, I think, that Russian Atom used. What did it say? Synthetic musks. Yes, synthetic musk. One of the most beautiful synthetic musk fragrances I've ever smelled. Siberian Summer is totally Underrated. I love it. I absolutely love it. Siberian Summer is good stuff. And then we have, of course, Russian Oud. Now, I had a bottle of Russian Oud, but I sold it. I never sell fragrances, but I sold it to a friend who really, really wanted it. And with that money, I bought this. And this is the other Russian Oud. And so, thank God I have a bottle of Russian Oud because, I think it's one of the best ambery oud takes. That chocolatiness is just beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. So, yes, the OG Russian Oud. And there is a Russian Oud 2, which came out this year as well, which I reviewed in my in my live stream where I tried them all. You can go check out that live stream if you would like. But yeah, I don't have a bottle of it. And then 2 other Arige, and then we'll move on to some other brands. But Russian Musk, which is a really good musk fragrance. If you like your musks to be fluffier and not as leathery or animalic, this is one I could recommend. Great for the office. A lot of pine as well. And then probably my favorite musk fragrance of all time, Inverno Russo. This is, my God. This is a masterpiece. An absolute masterpiece that no one talks about. This and Siberian Musk play in the same ballpark, but I think I prefer this one. It's such a special perfume. And then we've got a fragrance from, I think Armando threw this into a haul. I can't remember, but this is called Carner D600. And Carner D600 is Carner's take on Dior Homme. And it's actually a really, really good fragrance. You know, for a modern house, Carner Barcelona does not get enough talk. I think that they punch way above their weight class. And I'm going to review Carter Queers one of these days. And I'm going to review Carner's D600. This is a vintage bottle. It's an older bottle. I think they've changed some things. But this is quality stuff if you like that Dior Homme DNA. Okay, some vintage Jean-Claude Elena's from Japan. One is called First, an eau de toilette, because it was the first fragrance, and just so you can prove it's from Japan. And then this is the Pure Parfum, which is beautiful. I prefer the Pure Parfum. I'm going to put this in an atomizer. I'm going to spray the shit out of this, just like I'm wearing Mitsuko today. I'm going to douse myself in First in Pure Parfum form and review it one of these days for you guys. But just beautiful stuff. One of Jean-Claude Elena's earlier work from the 70s, but very floral. And then a house we discovered together, and I think it was Armando who sent this to me in one of the hauls. I can't remember, but this is Jean-Charles de Castelbajac. How could you forget Jean-Charles de Castelbajac? This fragrance reminded me a little bit of Diaghilev. It has that Chypre DNA. A distinctive femininely fragrance whose emphatic heart of flowers and fruit is set against a backdrop of enticing and exquisite sensuality. And unfortunately, this is all I have left, but what a beautiful Chypre this is. If you like stuff like Mitsuko or Diaghilev, I would really encourage you to check out Jean-Charles de Castelbajac, number 2. And I loved it so much, it made me hunt down Jean-Charles de Castelbajac for Men, the Eau de Toilette, which came out, when did this come out? Let me look it up. Jean-Charles de Castelbajac. Come on, baby. Why would you do that to me? There you are. Jean-Charles de Castelbajac from 82. This actually came out first, and then this came out, I think, in the mid-80s, if I'm not mistaken. But this is, this was last distributed by Mullins, which is different from my distributor. Mine is Cantaline, so this must be an older bottle if the last distributor was Mullins. This is aldehydes, artemisia, juniper, basil, green notes, bergamot, cedarwood, geranium, sandalwood, carnation, patchouli, pine needle, moss, castoreum, frankincense, leather, musk, and tonka. What a fragrance this is that no one talks about from 82. It's an eau de toilette concentrate. There is an eau de cologne concentration, but I actually have the eau de toilette. which is also discontinued. But I'll tell you what, if you're a fan of 80s fragrances, if you can find this for a song like I did, get it. Amazing stuff. And then, actually, we're not done with Aries Ladore because this was the year of the ouds. And I've reviewed them all. So if you want to see about his history of oud collection, this was in 2023. Some of the best, I think, reference oud fragrances. Just as my 2023 is the year of loving ouds for me, really coming around to truly loving ouds, and it's really thanks to Russian Adam and people like Sultan Pasha and stuff like that. And then we have a fragrance that was gifted to me by Ali just within the last month or so. I reviewed Amouage has a silver crystal, which they've tried to recreate the gold crystal for men and women and sell it for almost $2,000, by the way, which is insane. But they have a silver version, which I reviewed on the channel, and I said I would love to have this version of silver. And sure enough, one day, a gift from Ali. So thank you, Ali. Very, very kind of you. The made in Oman, it is the magnetic cap, but it's brilliant. It smells exactly like I remember from my Mini. And I think silver is a much better fragrance than it gets credit for. It kind of gets pushed aside because it's silver, I think, and not gold, but I actually really like it. And then, sorry, I forgot who sent this one to me. So this could have been part of the haul from Jeff. I think my friend Jeff sent this, but it could have been someone else. I forget. But this is Clive Christian E. Gourmand Oriental. Sweet clove and cinnamon, enveloped in an elegant blend of earthy oak moss and maple. And this maple in here does smell like maple syrup. It doesn't smell like the maple tree like Amber Kiso from DS and Durga, which I reviewed on the channel. But if you like a sweeter... But this is a good gourmand, I will say that. It's just crazy for the price. I wouldn't give Clive Christian anywhere near what they're asking for. But if money's not an issue, I mean, it is a nice fragrance for winter. Okay, next on the list, one I'm still getting to know, but I've sprayed it once before bed and I actually really liked it. This is called Goutal's Ombre Sauvage. Ombre Sauvage. And the first Goutal in this packaging that I have held in my hand. And I actually like it. I'm a fan. That's a proper, well-done amber that, again, very few people talk about. I don't hear very many people talking about Ombre Sauvage Absolute. Oh, this is the Absolute version. I don't know if that's different. But yes, this came this year. I believe, I forget who sent that. It might have been A2. And I think he also sent me this. Byredo 1996. Which, again, is another ambery type fragrance. It's based on this photograph. And this is actually the best seller. So the only Byredo in my collection. It was a gift. I didn't buy it. Someone was like, Byredo on Channel Ram. And I actually wore this a couple weeks back. And it's not bad, okay? It's not as... I wanted to hate it much more than I actually did. It's just... it's a Byredo, you know? But it's not bad. So 1996, you'll hear some talk on the channel one of these days. And then we're going to go to, I can't show you all of the decants, of course, because it would be impossible, but you can just go through my videos and see like the fragrances that people have sent me decants that I discovered this year. But a couple I want to highlight because they're easy to highlight. One is this little fragrance from a benefactor who sent me a small decant. When I said I loved it when I reviewed it, he sent me a bigger one, and this is called Elsha 1776 Cologne. Elsha 1776 Cologne is a Russian leather, but it's a powdery take on a Russian leather. Very well done. I love leather fragrances. If you love leather fragrances, this should be on your to sniff list. And a couple minis. One of them my good friend Frank sent me, and this is called Halston Limited, which I reviewed on the channel, and I love it. It's full bottle worthy. This is absolutely full bottle worthy. Fantastic stuff. One of the Halstons that gets overlooked. And this is Omar Sharif Pour Homme. I would love a full bottle of both of these one day. They are amazing, amazing stuff. Omar Sharif, I've reviewed on the channel as well. One of the best celebrity fragrances, I think. This is the kind of celebrity fragrance that can compete with Luciano Pavarotti. Very few can. This is quality juice. And look at the bottle. It's fantastic. So shout out to the famous Egyptian actor Omar Sharif. And then we have a fragrance that I don't remember the name of. If anyone remembers the name, actually, it might be in my email. I think he might have sent it to me. But this is a Arabian Oud fragrance, and I reviewed a fragrance called Shark Dinam al Shark. I forget. It's in my Arabian Oud videos, but this is like the sister fragrance of it, and it's actually not bad. It smells like an Arabian Oud, which is not a good thing to say, because I don't think Arabian Oud smell particularly natural enough for the price tag. Some of the Arabian Oud price tags are outrageous. It has that Arabian Oud DNA somehow, but I don't necessarily hate it. I think it's a decently done oud. So as soon as I can figure out what that's called, maybe I'll talk about it on the channel one day. And then we have, this definitely came from my good friend Jeff, and this is called Arso. Probably one of my favorite, I just said probably, and then I'm like one of my, but yeah, I'm torn, I'm conflicted, because I've reviewed some perfume aromas on the channel this year. Many of them were off of decants. This I've had a chance to give multiple wearings to, and oh god, it is so good. I think this may be my favorite perfume aroma. It just speaks to me, that pine, smokiness. It definitely reminds you of Serge Lutens Filin Agile. Jeff also sent me this, which I'm still getting to know. This is B683 extract from Marc-Antoine Bawa. And there's a little bit of an oudi touch to this, but I like it. I like it better than the Eau de Parfum, which he sent me a sample of, I believe. And he also sent me a sample of Encelade, the one that everyone talks about is huge and all that stuff. So one of these days I'll get around to reviewing more of these Marc-Antoine Bawas, but I did review Ganymede on the channel, so that's on there. And then back to our good friend Anuj from Enchanté. This is Koros Eau de Sport. Probably a top 5 sport fragrance for me right here. Oh god, it's so good. It's like Koros. How would I describe this? So whenever the way that this actually ended up here with me is I did a blind sniffing live stream. Somebody built a bunch of fragrances I've never smelled blind and sent them to me, right? And I sprayed this and I was like, dude, why did you put just Koros in here? Of course I have Koros. It's not just Koros. It's actually a sort of more herbal, slightly more green version of Koros. But they left, the thing about the 80s sport fragrances, there's also an Antaeus Sport, which is my favorite sport fragrance. But this is up there with Antaeus Sport, because the thing about the sport fragrances from the 80s, they didn't turn the animalics down at all. They just added some other things. Like Antaeus Sport has peppermint, this has forest herbs and stuff like that. And so it's interesting because you wear this in the summer and boy, you are going to, they will definitely notice you, especially nowadays. So I love it though. I absolutely love Koros Eau de Sport. Top 5 sport flanker fragrance for me. And then this one, there's no clue from who it's from. My good friend Hari. This is Cial de Gomme. Now, Cial de Gomme is one of my favorite Francis Kirkjohns, along with Absolute Pour Le Soir. This is an amazing amber with some beautiful jasmine. And Francis Kirkjohn loves mixing in these musks, which I give him a very hard time for, because usually they're boring white musk, but here the white musk just fits in perfectly with that jasmine and the amber, and I think it's a brilliant creation. It was originally made for the department store in Russia called GUM, and then whenever LVMH purchased MFK, they discontinued the fragrances that weren't selling well enough, and this was one of them. And then we have 2 vintage Amouage that I ended up picking up this year. One is a vintage snap cap of Interlude, which is fantastic. I love this version. I love my version too. The version that I had was one of the earlier magnetic caps, still with the name on the side, but this version is unbelievable. It's like, there's a little bit more depth, it lasts longer, but for the most part, you don't have to pay big money for a vintage. And the same thing I would say for this. This is the OG of Jubilation 25 for man. I know now everyone's on to Jubilation 40, but I don't think there's any reason for me to get Jubilation 40. I'm so happy with my vintage Jubilation 25 that there's just no need. I'll just wear that. Although I'd like to smell it one day. And then back to Japan. One of the fragrances that had a catastrophe this year. This is YSL Pour Homme in like the original packaging, right? This was not a splash. This was a spray. And it was one of those sprays where the contents were under pressure. If you ever read one of those, here's you can see the bottom, how they used to do it back in the day with the white writing. So you can tell this is old. Like maybe one of the first runs of YSL Pour Homme. And so whenever I tried to spray it, right, the spray sprayed and then it got stuck. And it was just spraying like just, and it's just a straight stream with those contents under pressure sprays, whatever they want to call it. And so I panicked. I was like, shit, it's just spraying everywhere. So I ripped the sprayer off. Well, that didn't help, actually, because it kept oozing out of the top of this, right? And it was oozing out of the top, like, so fast. I was losing juice, so I panicked again. So I tried to find something to catch it in, and I finally got a decant, right? And as I'm putting this juice into the decant, it's so, from being under pressure and bubbling up like a champagne bottle, that literally the juice would get into the decant and it would bubble out. It would like literally bubble out of the decanter once I got it in. So I lost a shitload of this juice that day. It was a catastrophe. I probably still have 25 mils left, and I saved 10 mil in an atomizer. But yeah, I lost. I probably lost more than half of this bottle, which is a shame. But I will still review this and talk about this one day. Probably one of my favorite versions of this style of fragrances. I much prefer this to Chanel Pour Monsieur, the Eau de Toilette. Although I really like the Cologne Concentré. Okay, staying on YSL, staying from Japan, and staying from contents under pressure YSL products. This is YSL Y. Now this has the built-in sprayer, the trigger on the inside here. So I haven't had a problem spraying this, luckily. But this is one of the most beautiful green chypres, period. I think that, my opinion, this in the 1960s, this set off what happened in the 70s. This was the spillover. Like when the American Revolution happened and Thomas Jefferson and everyone thought that it would just be a wrecking ball and there'd be revolutions all over the world. And that did happen in France, but it didn't happen all over the world like they assumed. But this set off a revolution of green chypres that happened in the 70s. You know, things like private collection and stuff like that. But it's number 19. I mean, the amazing green chypres from the 70s, I think, owe their existence to this little beauty right here. Okay, let's do a couple Guerlain. So I was able to score Rose Necri du Désert, which I think is one of the best versions, one of the best fragrances in this collection. It's interesting because Rose Necri du Désert, according to Parfumo, is still in production. But they never took it from this collection, which I always forget what it was called, to the new collection, which looks like a Middle Eastern style version of the B bottle, right? I've never seen a new bottle of Rose Necri du Désert. So even though they say it's still in production, I don't know. I'm a little suspicious about that. But I will review this one of these days. And I love these old bottles. I wish Guerlain didn't change these up. I really think that they're classy with the Guerlain logo and the bees and all that good stuff right here, and like the gold shimmering down. Very Middle Eastern style. Very classy. Love it. And two Hall of Fame Guerlains. One is, of course, the Pure Parfum of Val de Nuit. This is a vintage, but the propeller's missing, so I got it for, well, let's just say, because the propeller was missing, I was able to get it. And this is, I mean, just like I'm so in awe of the Pure Parfum of Mitsuko, the Pure Parfum of Val de Nuit is completely different than the Eau de Toilette. I mean, I much prefer the Pure Parfum. I would just bathe in this stuff if I could. It's unbelievable. One of the greatest green fragrances ever. And actually, if you really want to get technical, I think that the green fragrance from the 1970s and this and everything that came in the 40s and 50s, that green galbanum has this to owe. This is really the thing that set off a lot of the green fragrances by Guerlain. What a beautiful fragrance Val de Nuit is. The Narcissus, all the amazing things in there, the florals. And this is an unbelievable find for me. I still would love to find a bottle of Jedi. I know that my brother Sultan Pasha came on the stream a week or two ago and said he has 2 bottles of Jedi. I would love a bottle of Jedi, but I love this stuff. This is Bouquet de Founds. Now, my brother Russian Adam says that the vintage bottle that he smelled with the actual 3 heads. So there's a how do I say? There's a, let's see if I can find it. Bouquet. Whoops. Oh, I had it. Here it is. Bouquet de Founds. So the original bottle, okay, had like 3 fawn heads on it, and it was a chalice basically created by Lalique, I believe. And it's such a beautiful fragrance, that flacon, that it's exhibited literally in the Hall of Mirrors. The original is exhibited in the Hall of Mirrors because it's so beautiful. And so this, I think, is a version from the 50s or 60s. I really don't know, but he says it's much less animalic than what he smelled in the original version. I would love to smell it, but all I know is I love this. The way that this suede sort of floral, it's so Guerlain. It's just perfectly Guerlain. And it's almost impossible to describe, you know. But Bouquet de Founds is an absolute classic, and I'm so lucky to have found that this year. And then just a couple more and we're done. So a couple Sherwood perfumes. This is a house that you all have heard me talk about on the channel in 2023. One of these is Gentleman, and one of them is Sar. Sar is much preferred, my favorite. It's not that Gentleman is a bad fragrance. It's that it's not really my taste as much because it focuses a lot on fresher lavender. You know, you get a lot of this sort of tea-like feel. I forget what type of tea, but I know there is a tea note, if I remember, a basil. There's a fresh pepperiness to it, and it really doesn't last very long, but it definitely lives up to its name. It is gentlemanly. Green tea, absolute. That's it. It's a green tea note. One of my favorite green tea, probably my favorite green tea. If I don't think I have any other green tea fragrances in my collection, but it's perfectly done for a green tea, easy summer wear. So that is Gentleman, and I love the packaging, very suave packaging. And the other one, which is much more to my taste, is Sar. Now, Sar is I think brilliant, and you know, when you're comparing some of these fragrances when you're comparing some of these houses together, it's sort of easy to overlook the fact that this type of perfumery, Sar, you could find these bottles for 60, 70 bucks. Now, his new amber, I think, is like 250 or 300. But Sar, these were selling for 50, 60, 70 bucks originally. And what a deal. Beautiful fragrance. Lots of beautiful florals, beautiful animalic notes. It smells like you're smelling the real ambergris, real castoreum, real civet. There is some cypriol. I don't know if there's any real oud in here, but it's just, I mean, a brilliant. If you like animalic Chypre fragrances with a lot of moving parts and, you know, that contrast between the bergamot in the top, there is a beautiful Italian bergamot in here. It's spicy, nutmeg. The floral heart is unbelievable. It's smoky. It's just everything. This has so many things. You know, it's woody, the sandalwood in the base, the Spanish labdanum, the styrax. This type of perfumery cannot be had for $60 or $70. Absolutely impossible. So thank you to my good friend Prakar Gupta for sending those. You know, I really enjoyed getting to know them. and you can go check out the reviews on my channel. I reviewed some other stuff too. His vetiver was really good too. I think it was called Royal Vetiver or something along those lines. Much more royal than the Roja vetiver that I reviewed yesterday. But yes, it is. It's a house worth keeping an eye on, I'll tell you that. And I would love to smell his new amber fragrance one of these days. Okay, next on the list is a fragrance from A2. I believe the next two are from A2. And this is called Quia by the house of Mona D'Orio. This is the vintage version, and I'm in love with this fragrance. Like, I'm gonna review this. I'm gonna wear it and review it. Oh, and did you hear that pop when I took the cap off? That's supposed to be like a champagne cork, you know, popping. It's supposed to be a celebration when you open her fragrance, was the thought behind the original bottle. And I love that idea. But this is a smoky, green industrial leather, very dry, very smoky, very animalic leather, my kind of leather, a throwback leather. You know, some people compare it to Giacomo de Giacomo from the early 80s, and there is a little bit about that, but you really get the spices, the cardamom in the top. It's just a beautiful, beautiful leather. If you like animalic leathers, definitely one to put on the list, I would say. And I'll review it one of these days, or maybe even do a comparison video to the newer bottle that I have. And I think A2 included this one in the same package. I can't remember, but this is called Tom Ford Extreme. And Tom Ford Extreme is, I'm so glad to have this. Like, I've been hunting for this. What a beautiful gift this was. Gonna review it one of these days. I really, really like it. And this is from a perfumer who I think is really underrated. It's Pierre Negrin, believe it or not, the guy that did The Blue Beast. And Tom Ford Extreme from 2007 is discontinued now. It's no longer in production. Neither is the OG. Original, just Tom Ford for Men, which came in the same bottle, but it was like clear. That's also a fragrance that's very underrated. This one is much spicier. You get a lot of warm notes, so a lot of warm cinnamon. Everything just feels like enveloping, perfect for the cold. You get like this truffle note, which is maybe the best truffle note I've ever smelled, with this leathery, boozy rum dry down, and it's slightly smoky. There's just so much going on in here. But this beautiful, spicy, woody, warm, enveloping fragrance, leathery, oriental in style, slightly balsamic, very rich in texture, right? And sad that this is no longer in production, and that this was in their cheaper line. You know, value for money was through the roof with these original Tom Fords. Now, of course, everything's in the private blend and so forth and so on. Okay, last fragrance, and I think we're going to keep it right around an hour. And this is one of my favorite finds of 2023. Maybe the fragrance release in 2023, because obviously a lot of these fragrances that I showed today were not released in 2023. They're just fragrances I accumulated in 2023. This is a 2023 release, and it's thanks to my good friend Eugene from Les Abstraits. This is called Dessandra's. And if you're a vintage fragrance lover, I will implore you again to check out this house. I have told many folks who love vintage perfumes to try this, give it a shot, and many of them have came back and said, you're right, those are full bottle worthy. I'm buying a bottle of that. And Dessandra's is one such fragrance. It's sort of in the realm of Aramis Devon, but Dessandra's is a creation by Antoine Lee and Eugene. And Dessandra's uses notes like, for example, galbanum, anise, birch tar, Swiss pine tar. Now that's a note you don't see very often, Swiss pine tar, with clove, Moroccan mint, Indian tuberose. Don't let that tuberose note scare you. Leather, definitely you'll get the leather. You'll get the violet. You'll get a little bit of the African hyrax, Haitian vetiver, Indonesian patchouli, and oak moss. But they wear huge. They're so powerful. And I love that about them. If you're a vintage lover, it's smoky, it's green, it's, you know, there's so much going on. The tarriness in here, the resins, I think it's a masterpiece. It's brilliant. You know, it definitely has shades of Devon, but imagine like a niche Devon. You know how Antoine Lee loves sort of leaving little breadcrumbs to the past? This is definitely in that Devon style, which is one of the best I mentioned green chypres earlier when we were talking about Y from 1964 for women, right? But there was also green chypres for men, and Devon was one such fragrance. And this sort of is the grandson of that style, if you will. But Antoine Lee, stuff like this is the reason why I think Antoine Lee is one of the best perfumers alive. And I love that he goes his own way and kind of gives the middle finger to the, to just the fragrance world and to the oil houses and all that stuff, right? He just gave them the middle finger, went his own way, and did his own thing, and ended up creating beautiful fragrances for houses like Etat Libre d'Orange and stuff like this. And I mean, just a brilliant mind. Proper Frenchman all the way. So, Descendres by Les Abstraits is the final one. We're right at the hour mark. Let me know what your favorites are, favorite pickups from 2023 are that you've picked up. Let me know what the favorites from the list. I know it was a lot to go through. So thanks for watching. I know these long form sort of RAM videos where we talk about a lot of fragrances at once. Some people love and some people hate, but I love to hear your feedback. I love the support you guys have given me. 2023 has been such an amazing year for me in so many different ways and facets. Just an unforgettable, unbelievable year. I know we're coming up on Christmas very soon, so the year's not over yet. But I just want to say thank you to everyone who supported the channel in 2023, to the new subscribers who have kind of joined. There's a lot in my back catalog. So if you just go back, go through my older videos and watch some of the older videos, there's a lot of content that I put out over the last year or so. So 2023, it's been a prolific year. So excited to have so many of these fragrances I've never reviewed. Think about it. Think about how many fragrances I showed you I have not reviewed on the channel. Not done a full review on. I mean, just one after the other after the other. So there's so much content that I want to do for you guys. And I'm excited. I'm excited for 2024 and what it brings. So cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.